Summer, a time to enjoy the glories of nature, a time for swimming, fishing, hiking, canoeing, enjoying some barbecue on the back porch, running through the sprinkler on the front lawn, indoctrinating the kids into their parents' politics. You heard right. For some parents across Canada and the U.S., this is as important as the fishing and all the rest of it. It's not good enough to send the kids to camp for classic summer fun. They have to make sure the kids come back home with the right ideology. Here's a scene from the CUPE Convention Kids Camp.
Happy retirement. I'm glad you worked here for 35 years.
Me too. I was wondering how much benefits I get.
I'm sorry, but the 35 years you worked here for weren't strong enough. You get no benefits. You're dismissed.
Well, I guess it was just all a bad dream. Well, I guess I'm going to go all the way to work now. So how much benefits do I get after I
Well, happy retirement. I'm glad you worked here for 35 years, but you can't ask me. You have to ask your union president, Tristan. The union has negotiated that you will get your benefits when you retire. Yeah!
The whole thing is a bad dream. Folks, we talk a lot on this show about the importance of parenting, getting the nanny state out of the way so parents can exercise their best judgment when it comes to their kids. Fact is, some parents exercise lousy judgments, sometimes even as bad or worse than the nanny state. I include parents who send their kids to camps like that one. That's beyond parenting. That's brainwashing. So it's time for some Canadian common sense. For our first example, let's go back to the CUPE Youth Council for kids as young as 9. Last year, the kids had a field trip, an Occupy Vancouver protest site. They watched a movie, a video tribute to the late NDP leader, St. Jack Layton. They had some group discussions. Topics ranged from the labor movement and activism to racism and environmentalism. And they joined in some writing projects. The topics included what is a union and what we want to change. Included on that list, get rid of Harper, written by a 9-year-old girl. If that doesn't say it all about the CUPE summer camp, I don't know what does. Then there's the other side of the coin, Tampa Liberty School. That's a Tea Party run camp in Florida for kids aged 8 to 12. What do they learn? The value of switching back to the gold standard. They're warned about the risks of inflation. They're introduced to concepts like anarchy, tyranny. They attend Founders Friday protests inspired by Glenn Beck, in which they wear We the People t-shirts while adults wear colonial costumes. They learn the superiority of charity over taxation. Aren't all of these concepts normally reserved for college students? You know, people supposedly old enough to think critically about politics and economics. Then there's Camp Kindness. That's a vegan camp, 8 to 13-year-olds, upstate New York. The usual activities on offer at Camp Kindness: gardening, cooking, taking care of animals. How about learning about factory farming? The camp says its activities covering the meat industry are age appropriate. Well, I'm sorry, but the last time I checked, telling a bunch of 8-year-olds what to think about business, what to think about politics, not appropriate. Now, you can love some of these lessons and hate others. Not my concern. If there were a summer camp that taught kids to agree with everything I believe in, I still wouldn't support it. It's not what I want to do to 8-year-olds. My concern is how young kids respond to political teaching. At 8 and 9, kids are still very impressionable. If mom says it's wrong, it's wrong. If the people she's paying to counsel you at camp say it's wrong, it's wrong. There's no room for interpretation here, no room for disagreement. What happens if one particularly insightful, individualistic kid hears something that just doesn't make sense up here? What kind of pressure will that child face at camp? Not just from counselors, from their bunkmates. And how about when summer's over? A parent who sends their child to an ideological summer camp is a parent who expects political obedience from that child. But you can't protect kids from ideas other than your own forever? What happens if the kid decides she doesn't agree with you after all? Are you going to ask yourself where you went wrong? I'll tell you where you went wrong. It's at the same kitchen table where you filled out this camp application. How often have I told you, the educrats of the world, please allow kids to be kids. I'm sorry to see how many parents need to hear the same message. You ought to be proud of a kid who learns to question the world around them. The mind is working. They'll never learn that at a camp that makes them want to get rid of Harper at the age of 9. That's Canadian common sense.